So welcome to a special edition of the podcast, the Get Off My Lawn Records podcast.
Get off my lawn!
I'm Donald W. Moore, and we're going to show you how we make the podcast.
Cool.
So this is Jared. Jared is hanging out. We just finished doing episode 18, which is season 1, episode 5, I believe.
Season 2 episode?
Season 2, episode 5. Right, so we've been doing this for a little while, and I do a lot of stuff. I'm going to smoke a cigarette while I do this, so sorry, Ma. My mother watches the show, and she does not approve. So here we are. We're looking at my screen, and this is my routing. I'm running group out from my mixing board. I'm running that into the computer, just in through a preamp that's built into my interface, because I'm too stupid to figure out a better way to do it. So that's what this is. Let's get that out of the way. We don't need that right now. This is Digital Performer. This is how we record the audio. Now, with the audio, you'll see I've got 3 microphones going on here. I've got my
one for me, one
Don,
for Carissa,
and Jared.
Yeah. Though,
admittedly, the camera, you can't see Jared. I can't see that part's covered up on the screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to follow. We just finished the podcast and we're just now sitting down to edit it. It takes about 30 minutes. It's really quite cool. So the first step before I even start working with this audio is I pulled the SD cards out of the cameras. Now, this is a 2-camera episode. So I have to find my thing. There it is. This is a 2-camera episode, and with that means the editing's a little different. We did a screen capture off of the Keynote. We use Keynote to kind of show me what section we're in, and it helps with editing. So
that's what I was looking at on the screen in my direct line of sight from my camera.
That's exactly it. So I've put my SD card into my SD card reader. I'm lucky in that I put a USB hub within reach.
How many USBs do you have there?
7.
7, nice.
7.
And it's powered?
It's powered. It's supposed to be USB 3, but like these Macs, this particular Mac, when you run a USB 3 hub, it screws up the Wi-Fi. So like all of a sudden I couldn't talk to my Wi-Fi. I couldn't figure out why. But I needed to use a USB 2.0 extension cord to hang it there anyway. And so once you use a 2.0 extension cord, it's just done.
Right, that's the max it'll handle.
Right. So let's go into here. For some reason, Final Cut wants to pull it, but it's not finding anything. Let's go into the actual... Let's look at it on the screen. Is it here? Yes, here it is. So this is going to be our angle where we talk to you.
Okay. So that's you and Carissa, what I was seeing.
Right.
Okay.
And that was the camera sitting right next to you that was clamped to the wall.
Right, that I paid no mind to because it was kind of like...
Right.
Yeah.
And I clamp it to just one of the openings. It's a closet,
right there.
Or it used to be a closet. Now I just think of it as my amp cubby. It's a mess. I got to clean up.
There's no room for shoes in there because of the amps.
Yeah. So this pulls out an MP4. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a second window, new Finder window, and I just move these over to my backup drive, always. So you'll see I've got other folders. I'm working on Freeform Fridays. We talk a lot about that on the podcast. Right. And that's actually what you're seeing on Final Cut on the screen. So we're on episode 18. We're just making a folder. We're going to make another folder for video. Actually, these, I don't need to even be that organized. It's like 6 files. So we're just going to drag this MP4 into the folder. I'm just copying it over. So while that moves, that's going to take, 2-3 minutes? Now we can go back to working on our audio. So we can see here in the audio, Jared's going to be louder than Carissa and me. I'm pretty consistent. Carissa's kind of all over the place. Let's see what we can do. I'm curious what this sounds like.
Do I need to go subscribe for all?
That's pretty clean.
Treat.
Uh-huh.
Buying a keyboard.
And he didn't show. And he didn't show. And I waited for...
Yeah. Okay. So so you're pretty even there. What about here?
You don't get to talk about...
Let's find somewhere where you're talking.
Don't
High-
doing these
high
in
school-
one.
high
Oh,
school.
You're a little loud.
Okay.
So
I've been told that my whole lifetime.
that's okay. I think you were, like I said, I think you were moving around. You actually peaked at one point, so we're gonna have to cut that down. Luckily, what I do is I run everything through my analog board, and it creates quite a bit of overage cover. So I don't need to do any like serious cleanup on the audio. I just need to bring the overall volume down. So this is a little loud. The other one's a little loud. Let me go find the starting point on that loud.
So you're
part.
putting a marker on each side of my visual.
Well, I'm
Right.
actually cutting it. I'm cutting it entirely. So it creates additional files
Okay.
within the file system. And now I can manipulate each of these sections independently. And this one is priority number 1. So we need to come down here, set. So we'll go to audio and we do apply plugin. And I'm just trying to grab a thing. The other way I could, in theory, do this
Okay.
is I could automate the volume fader, which is how I usually do when I mix. But this, because it's before it hits the compressor, I really want it to be more even so that the compressor isn't doing all sorts of weird things to the sound. So we're not really using the compressor part here. I'm just using this for my plus minus. So I'm going to come down and let's just make that -6. Usually that's a pretty big change.
Enough.
Well, 3 is, I believe 3 or 6 is double. So, see, now all of a sudden that went from way big to right about the right size. So that's probably going to be too much for here. So let's make this -3. And I'm just trying to find something that'll make the waveforms generally peak where the other ones are. I just want
Gotcha.
something relatively smooth. And then we'll use a compressor to finish the job. And that's still thinking for some reason. While that's thinking, let's go work on this one and we'll apply it here as well. All right, so now let's just listen to it quick.
Right.
At first, and I've refused every time that pops up. I say no, thank you.
Yeah, okay, so that's not like super loud, it's not super quiet, it's just about where I want it to be.
Okay.
So now we come in, I thought I had enabled the record. So now all 3 of these are about right. The worst part is I can't actually see what I'm doing because I got the camera in my way. So how am I going to fix this? We're going to come, let me see, window. I can never figure this stuff out. Show all windows? No. If anybody can leave me a comment to let me know how to fix that, I would like that to be a regular size window. But we're going to make do. I might have to like lean. Yeah, I can do it that way. So Jared's a little loud. We're going to move him to like
Hey, Don.
-3. Yeah.
Can you pull the camera,
The screen?
the screen out of your way?
Not easily. Let's see. Oh no, I don't want to do that. That'll turn the camera off. There we go.
All right.
There we go. I'm just going to trust that it's all right because I can't actually see what it's doing. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's bring this to like -3 and let's listen to it quick.
That's
It's
just
the
one more
only way I
password.
can. It's the only way I can keep them. You know, I was like, I don't want it all to be me. I set that up a long time ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you done the thing where you've said,
So I'm a little quieter than you are, so let's bring me up.
Okay.
Or actually, let's bring you down a little more because once we apply the compression, it's going to become a bigger deal. So,
That I'm louder.
yeah. So let's make this -5. That'll probably be about right.
set a Gmail account up for your kid?
Oh, I have several.
No, there you go. See, that's parenting done.
A little more.
So now, why are you doing it with the fader on the left now, whereas before you had gone into a plug-in?
Yeah. And are we using...
So now you see how everything is pretty evenly distributed in terms of loudness.
Right.
This is going to be a little quieter. This might actually need a bump.
Okay.
let's do a little bump there. Hashtag do a little bump. Probably not the right hashtag.
Yeah, certainly not the way I play.
No. So now we go back to our audio, apply plugin. Now I'm not, what's kind of nice is I've been doing this now for like 15 years. I still don't know the hotkeys. I just click my way around.
I'm always amazed at people with hotkeys. It's like it's watching magic when they're just like.
Well, I'm
you're
a
like,
hotkey guy in Excel, but I'm not
Okay.
a hotkey guy in Digital Performer, and I do a lot of Digital Performer. But yeah, I'm going to turn you down here because you get a little close to that mic.
I do.
I've been learning. But this, we're recording like mono. We're recording mono into the board, straight in to the recorder. I can't mix this one later. I'm sure you can hear that. Okay. So now let's hear that. Is that going to sound right?
Sometimes it feels like you put all this work in. You know, these Freeform Fridays, they take like 5 hours of editing each.
Let's find a section where like everybody's talking.
There's a show about a guy who sexually harasses an employee over and over.
Yeah, repeatedly. That's the entire 11 seasons.
Until she leaves. And then another one comes in and then he sexually harasses her.
Uh-huh.
I've never thought of it that way. Oh my gosh, you just spoiled one of my favorites.
All right, so we're just a little quiet. So let's bring that up to like -6.5. And then that's probably going to be right. So I can't spend it because I can't spend a ton of
called
time.
on them by a busybody
Because
neighbor.
you've got so many other things going on.
Thank you,
Right.
Marissa.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Yeah, I've got so many other things. I got to get this video done and move on to working on like Jomo and the Possum Posse. So this all sounds good. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna apply some very specific things. We're gonna start a new track. I use these things called master fader tracks. So it says everything coming out of 5/6 because I'm listening to this through the board. Everything coming out of 5/6 is we're gonna affect it all at the same time. So now you see I have a new one here.
Mm-hmm.
I add 2 off the bat. I do Ozone. And I use Ozone 4 because I haven't gotten a chance to upgrade yet. And I use PSP Vintage Warmer 2. Now,
These are plugins?
These are plugins. This is what a plugin is. It's this one kind of emulates the sound of a tape machine, kind of. But it's just got a nice sound, and it's just a light compression. So I like to just give it just a little oomph, right? Plus it gives me a nice brick wall, and it's got a fat switch that works well.
All right.
Okay.
Do you want to take a stab?
So now that sounds different than if we have it off. Let's try that.
No. If I come up with one, I'll just butt in.
All right.
All right.
So you hear everything just gets fuller and cleaner, and it sounds good. But it's loud. It's hard to listen to. But now when we come back into Ozone, we'll get a real clear idea of what's going on with the levels. So let's go look at our cancel. With Ozone, I really don't like to look at real time when I'm looking at spectrum analyzers. I like to look at a 1 second average, which is pretty close to like what a VU meter would do. And that's a pretty good representation of
VU?
loud. I don't know what VU stands for. Because I'm self-taught. A lot of this stuff I was never taught.
Right.
But let's see what it looks like when we listen to the
Okay,
voices.
what's my next one? The X-Files.
The X-Files is sexual tension set in a time of UFOs.
All right, so you see that how it kind of bounces in the middle. There's a little drop, and then there's some hum. Let's take care of the hum. I'm very familiar with the hum. In fact, we've got the door shut, but you can probably hear the heater running in the background.
Right. It did come on.
But what I do is it's just a formula. I'm taking out 60, I'm taking out 90, I'm taking out 120, and
Taking
180. These are very specific frequencies. I'm taking out the frequency that is 60 hertz, which is 60 cycles per second.
Oh, so you're just removing them from the whole...
From the entire recording. Yep, so there will be no
60 hertz.
there'll be no 60, there will be no 90, there'll be no 120, there'll be no 180. And you see there's still just a little bit of hum.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take that up to 240. and I think we can get it out with that 240. We're just trying to reduce the hum. There's other ways to do it. Ozone makes a nice product.
Now, right now, are you changing?
Also, there's a guy in a coat.
Just a hint more.
Are you changing all 3 files with this? You're taking it out
all 3. Yep.
At the same time, or you have to replicate this?
Nope. At this point now, I'm no longer working with individual things. I'm now working on the stereo recording.
Right.
So from a music perspective, what I'm doing is mastering, but you would never be like plucking hum out of mastering. So now that is very, very quiet. I like that. I'm going to live with that, and it's just going to be what it is. So we're taking out 60, 90, 120, 180, 240, and 360. If you think about that mathematically, they all add up, right? It's an overtone. It's a singular hum that's coming out of my system a little bit. It gets picked up by the microphones, amplified over and over, turns into a nasty sounding thing. So now we've got that done. Now we can work entirely in Ozone. This is where I'm happiest. I know how to do everything really well with this. When I was a full-time mastering engineer, this was my number one tool. And I like the Intelligent 2. Like the Soft and the Brick Wall. Soft is going to let some overs through. Brick Wall might let some overs, but not really. But it's got a really specific sound that I don't love. The Intelligent sounded good, but they came up with this Intelligent 2 in version 4. And it's just very clean. You can't really hear that it's there. You can just hear louder. It's not really changing much else. So I always set a margin of -1 for YouTube, mostly to keep Final Cut from complaining at me. When I do the Freeform Fridays, I run -0.1, so I get another decibel of loudness out of it. But for the podcast, I just use -1. It's a nice even number, and if we listen to it,
what's yours?
You'll see.
There may be aliens, or it could all be a government conspiracy.
You'll see that I've got a lot of stuff going on right here.
Okay.
And that's like -25 decibels. I usually target somewhere in the realm of -20 to -15. So what that's telling me is, because it's pretty loud in this room.
Yeah.
So we're going to actually take down the room on the board. And let's listen to that again.
Possibly both.
So now it's quieter. Now I feel like I can start bringing up the loudness.
Fair enough.
What I do. Threshold.
It's pretty good.
I was never much of a fan.
Have you seen the new ones?
I think I gave it a try, and I just didn't grab me.
I haven't. Have you? I think they're on Netflix now, aren't they?
That's about right. Now I just want to do some equalization, and we'll come back and we'll look at that again and see if it's peaking all of a sudden. But we're gonna use this equalizer. This will let me zoom way in. So like when I'm making a big swing in 6x, I'm zoomed in 6 times. So really the change is that big.
Gotcha.
So when I work in this realm, I'm really making fine tuning adjustments. But with this, it's pretty harsh. So we're going to do like 2x and see what we get.
I don't know if the new ones are no. I haven't been on Netflix for a while.
Huh.
Okay.
Oh
my God.
My teenage crush kills vampires for fun. I'm doing these in one. Oh man, Sarah.
All right, that takes all of my signal out of there. I think that was actually clipping in the digital realm, so I'm going to take this down a little bit. I'm going to take a lot of stuff down.
Michelle Gellar, oh buddy. Oh boy.
High school drama and vampire.
Yeah, it'll have to work. Okay. So when we're looking at this, there's not a lot of information going on right here, right?
Okay.
And
Twilight, the prequel.
And so we want to give that a little bit of bump. And that's going to make everything sound a little fuller.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you're getting something thrown
And that helps. But it's a little harsh in the upper mid, so we'll take that down a little bit.
at you.
By the way, Twilight, the Why Twilight Sucks video is a good.
And right here, that's where our real problem area is. So we'll take that up. Your ear is really sensitive to this frequency range.
Okay.
So little
So
changes.
you see that.
Little changes are going to have big shifts. So let's listen to it.
Good example of when I was internet famous.
Oh, really?
Have you seen Why Twilight Sucks?
No, is it funny?
It's
Okay.
part of why we
No,
Wow,
you don't
God.
get to talk about Twilight.
Isn't that cool?
That was cool, yeah.
So that's what that is. Your ear is really sensitive to those frequencies. It's this thing called the Fletcher-Munson curve, and you want to be really aware of it when you start equalizing things. If you're not listening very, very loudly, like 87 decibels loud, your ear is not very sensitive to your low frequencies and your high frequencies. So that's how you wind up with these mixes that turn out way too harsh.
Okay.
Because
that frequency is
it's just not
is
being
allowed
produced correctly
right, okay.
in their listening system. So they're overemphasizing it to make it sound like it's there because their ear's not sensitive up there, and then it comes out super harsh. Same with bass. I get these when I was doing mastering, I'd get these things that was like so much bass that you were actually taking it out, and they're looking at you like, no, don't take out my bass.
Yeah.
And you're like, your room is lying to you in some way. You don't need this much bass. This will sound bad on every other system except your room. So you have to be cognizant of these things. But yeah, the low mids, it's the Fletcher-Munson curve. It's very cool.
Twilight during Buffy
We're
the
only on the
Vampire
third
Slayer.
show,
Fair
too.
enough.
You don't get to talk.
Fair enough.
Not even the same. Don't even get me started on the sparkly vampires.
What is your two? What's your 2 cents?
Vampires, demon.
Okay, so I'm happy, right? Like
Right,
we heard it get kind of loud. It peaked at about -3. That's about it. You don't want to cut off more than that. And it's just a nice, even, smooth sound. So now we just come in. We select all this. Yeah.
Now wait, we're back in this. Were we? Okay, we were
We
doing.
finished working in the mixing board. We're happy with the way it sounds.
Okay.
So now we're going to select all. And we'll go File. Bounce to Disk. We want to make sure our outputs are listening to the same thing that we're actually listening to. I've screwed that up many, many times.
And saved a file that wasn't
It
listening
just
to
comes out blank.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that that matches if you're using Digital Performer. But nobody uses Digital Performer but me for some reason. So we'll put it in the same folder. GOMLP18 mix. Okay. We're going to export it with the same settings. I record these in 24-bit. And I record them at 44.1. So I just keep the source. I just use source for sample rate. But 24-bit, because this board output's kind of quiet, you want it to run. You definitely need to record 24-bit because it's more detailed in the lower quiet areas, where 16-bit's really detailed in the very loud sections, but
Okay.
not very detailed in the quiet. 24-bit's more detailed in the quiet. That's why we use it. So then when I boost things up, it doesn't get grainy. So now we hit OK. We're exporting. This is a real-time counter. The show came out to what? Probably an hour and a half.
Okay.
So we're exporting about 2 minutes every, 10 seconds. So now we get to leave this alone. And we're going to come in, and I think we're done with our transfer for Finder. So, yep, that appears to be done. Let's eject this.
Click, 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 click.
And you wait for it, and you wait for it. You click it again. Final Cut Pro's using it. No, Final Cut, don't use it. Maybe I can... Oh, now we get the spinning pinwheel of death. I love the spinning pinwheel of death. I really do. Maybe if
What
I
happened?
eject it from
Final Cut tried to grab it automatically.
Yeah, Final Cut was trying to look at it, and it didn't want to be looked at by Final Cut. These Sony cameras of mine, that's my only complaint on these CX405s, is that they do an AVC HD format, and working with AVC HD in Final Cut is just hard. So I don't ever recommend that workflow with Final Cut. Try to do something else. But as far as I know, it's about the only way to do long form video without getting really expensive. So, okay, so now we've got that ejected. Let's pop the the card out of the machine. Now, are you aware of how many SD cards I have to make these projects?
I kind of got an idea tonight.
Yeah. So
You posted a picture, actually, I think.
I did on the Instagram. There's
Yeah.
a picture of we recorded Jomo and the Possum Posse live. It was 6 cameras and a recorder, and we wound up filling, I think, 12 memory cards. And they're all like 16 or 32 gigabyte. All the little ones are 32, and they're capturing video. But
Don, do you remember, I mean, the price of storage, the size of storage, what we store in a, thumbnail size piece of plastic and metal? I mean, what were the discs that were this big?
512 kilobytes.
Nearly limitless in the day.
Felt like it.
Yeah.
Until it didn't. That's that's how this always goes, though, is it feels limitless until you actually hit the limit, and then all of a sudden we can't keep using this. And it'll drive you crazy until you upgrade. All right, cool. So so each of these files, I just do the podcast in 720. Like, I don't think anybody's watching for high def, right?
Right.
So I just do the 720 files. The camera will record a simultaneous AVC HD and MP4. Final Cut plays really well with MP4. Once this is done, and then once this export's done. Oh wow, this is a pretty long show actually. Huh. So once the export's
Well, don't forget we took a big old long cigarette break. Did you cut the beginning?
No, it's just all there.
It's all there. So, but I mean,
That's a valid point.
we,
Yeah,
I mean, we spent
probably 5 minutes.
Well, I was gonna say, even though we think it was 5 minutes, it was probably more like 8. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me close this because I don't need my Facebook notifications popping up while we record this. So, this is exporting. This is transferring. This will transfer in about a minute. And this looks like it's going to take about 5. This is admittedly the longest part of the process.
It's the wait.
It's the wait. Well, it's the wait and then the export. And we're not going to stick around for the export. The export, once I get the export going, I leave it overnight. That's an overnight
the
task.
last part where you put audio, video, one final file that goes out, that export?
Yeah, so once I'm going to combine the 3 cameras really. So once I combine the 3 cameras and the audio, sync them together, place them where I need them to be, and then like with the Carissa Explains It All, we need to do some editing, and that's it. And then I just need to chop up the individual sections and start exporting each one of those overnight. And then in the morning, as soon as I get up, I will begin uploading, or I will probably stay up, but as soon as the full episode exports, I then begin uploading that to YouTube. Because a 2-hour show on YouTube takes about 2.5 hours to upload and takes about 2.5 hours to process.
So once you upload it before it's live to
right.
the tube.
Yep. And it takes about 45 minutes. It takes over 45 minutes to export. It's a big process. It's a lot of sitting around. Why do you think I practice the guitar? That's what I do while I wait. I usually sit around and play guitar. So we're going to let this roll. And at this point, we're just waiting on the audio. I'm curious to see how long this is going to be. I have my fidget cube. I just got this.
It's pretty awesome.
Literally, like, I got back into the house to do the podcast, and it was on the door, It was, you got a box.
You got a box.
I got a box, did I? Yeah, with a little box. It's a box within a box.
There's a very real potential that you're going to get a second one on a day when you're not expecting a box either, right?
It'll show up sometime around the same time as my Elio.
Oh, your Elio. Oh, jeepers.
Do you know they started a lawsuit?
Yeah, of course they did.
A guy's doing it through small claims. If it goes out to class action, though, it
Are you gonna see a dime?
probably not. I'm pretty sure as a no, what does that Facebook group like to remind me of? No, non-refundable reservation holder. They won't even give you a spot in line unless you make it non-refundable.
Non-refundable reservation holder?
Yeah. $1,000 I gave him. And I waited and then I bought the Versa. And now I'm still waiting for the Elio.
You were talking about that thing for a long time, and I had long since forgotten about it.
I haven't.
Right? I mean, obviously it wasn't my $1,000.
Right.
But,
I haven't.
I had long since forgotten about it.
Yeah, it's gotten into, it's almost cult-like in the support column at this point. There's people who have been waiting for 6 years for this car. And they're like, I believe.
Oh my gosh.
It's starting to look like a Dale, man. Dale?
What was the Dale?
The Dale was a 3-wheel car that never came to fruition. And a bunch of people lost their deposits.
Mm.
But I think that guy went to prison. So that will be
When was the Dale? 60s?
the 70s.
70s.
During the gas shortage.
Was it 2 wheels in front?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like the Elio.
Oh, the Elio was going to be 3 wheels?
3 wheels, 2 in front, 1 in back. It's a neat car. I really hope they make them. I'd like to drive one. They'll get a tremendous gas mileage, like 85 miles to the gallon.
Right, because it's kind of...
And I gig.
It's closer to a motorcycle than it is a car.
Right. And I can totally shove that amp and that guitar in the back of the thing and drive it an hour and a half out of town. Because that's where we actually like do well as musicians in Austin. Musicians in Austin get paid very poorly, but musicians from Austin playing around Austin get paid much better.
So, like when you go out to Fredericksburg or Dripping Springs, or don't you play a winery out there sometimes?
A couple wineries out in Fredericksburg. What's up, Calais? What's up, Chisholm Trail? Calais is much closer to Austin.
Right. And that's jazz. That's
the Jazz Destroyers. Yeah, we'd show up and we play standards. And I like doing them. And they have really good wine. Holy cow, Texas has some good wine these days. Not all Texas wine's good, but there's some really good Texas
There have been
wine.
some rough years for the grapes with the drought, but
Yeah.
the years with the water,
Oof. Hey, this is just about exported.
almost 2 hours.
Almost 2 hours. This is what I do. I put up basically a feature film's worth of content every week for the audience. This is why I hope they all buy records, because I do all this extra work.
Right.
The records are like the bonus for it all. It's the memorabilia of watching this whole process.
Right.
So now we've got all our files transferred. Now we're going to come into Final Cut. This is very cool. It's very easy. We create a new library. Now I don't know that I have to create a new library.
But you like to
But
for
I'd
your
like to.
file, like for your file path and all of that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
and as I say library 3 times, I start typing it. So it's going to be GOMLP18. We then import our media. And because...
Audio and video.
Yep. Oh, and I forgot to move one more. I got one more I have to move.
One more camera.
Yep. You remember we did our screen recorder?
Oh, yep. So the screen recorder file is...
Now, where in the world the screen recorder file is beyond me. I think it's in applications, documents. No, it's going to be like... Oh, it's in somewhere weird. I think it's in their users, me, movies, screen cap. This is the one. Today at 10:41. Yep, this is the one. So we move this over here too.
That one should go faster, right?
Much faster. We only record those at 15 frames per second.
Mm-hmm.
Like
'Cause it's largely
you don't need it.
It's largely the same frame, second over second.
Right. So now we got our 3. We have our 3 videos and our audio in our folder. we can close these. And when we come into here, go into our backup. While I'm thinking about it, I will eject this because then I won't feel guilty when I pull it out later. I always feel guilty when it's like, you haven't properly ejected that. Oh. I guess I was supposed to properly eject it.
That could really screw up a file.
Yeah. The other thing that I often forget to do is save. So we're kind of done with Digital Performer. We're going to quit Digital Performer. At this point, what I really am concerned with is making sure that I free up as many resources as I can for Final Cut. So I'm selecting all these files. This is our mix and all of our videos. And you see they're roughly the same length because I'm pretty good about starting and stopping everything at the same time. So I import the selected.
Which helps you in the overall lineup when they start and stop at the same time.
Yep.
One less step.
And I'm not creating proxy data. I'm not creating optimized data. I'm just bringing the files in. We're going to keep them exactly as is. This machine will run 2 cameras at once. So now I have to create a new thing called a project, which is like the actual timeline and where our edits are. So we'll call this GOMLP 18 full. This will be the full episode that we edit real quick. We're going to change our view. We can hide our angles. I'm not doing a multi-angle thing. We can hide, and we're going to move back to optimize/original. You saw the icons went away because I didn't create proxy data, so that's why it wasn't going to show anything when we went to show proxy. I believe the first thing I started recording was the screen cap, but I don't want to bring the screen cap in right away. So bring this one in. And let me move my transitions. That was 60, 53. So we'll bring this one on top. Ah, Christ.
What?
Okay, we did move it. Okay. Okay, now we move our screen capture. It needs to go on the very bottom.
Yeah, we did move that camera.
Good. That would have driven me nuts.
Yeah, it would have driven me nuts too.
And then
framing. It's all about the framing with the cameras, right?
Yeah, it's so hard and it's hard to get right. All right.
It makes you think about all the work that goes into the framing of things. We were talking to our buddy earlier tonight about, the number of frames that it takes to make a given scene, and then if you go shoot the individual images to make more scenes,
Right.
And some guy's hanging off the edge in the podcast.
Yep.
I'm probably pretty fidgety.
We're all pretty fidgety. We do our final adjustments before we start rolling. Nope, that is not where I wanted that cut. Undo. Okay. We're going to come to this side of it. I'm just going to cut out everything from the beginning because I just don't need it. And we're going to synchronize everything from here. So now I've got a bunch of the chaff eliminated. Now it's just time to work on the wheat. So we move that there. Let's look at here. I'm just going to bring this. I don't really need to see. I guess let's do this. See, now this one will let me come out of the full screen. I don't know why Digital Performer wasn't letting me. If somebody knows, leave me a comment. Okay, so now for this, I'm just going to disable your clip real quick. Because I want to see. Here. This is about where the podcast would have started. Everything else is generally in sync. So when we zoom in, we can see that these two things are out of sync slightly. That is definitely going to be out of sync, but these two are definitely a little out. And then this looks to be slightly out. Now that looks visually as if everything's in sync. This is the beauty of having cameras that capture audio, is you can just visually sync things. You don't have to You don't have to use a clapper.
Because they're recording the audio as is at the same time. You press start on the camera and it's audio and video, boom.
Right.
Even though it's not picking up sound great, it's still a mark.
It's a marker. Exactly. So now we'll disable both these clips. I know this is right where the show starts, right?
Because you can see right there.
Right, you can see it on the screen. So I'm going to disable this clip as well. Because I want to see this. Yep. And this is not where it needs to be.
At all.
At all.
Yeah.
So we're going to zoom out and see it's like all the way over here.
Yeah.
So we'll move it over here.
Oh, that was easy. So that one was a great example of them being completely out of sync, but you lining them up
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
Cool.
And then what's really nice is now we've got this going. Now we also know that we can generally cut out everything from here and back. Right? So now I don't need any of this stuff either. So I'm just getting it all out of my way. It's just not needed. Not
Well, and
used.
how much time did we just cut out of the whole thing? Because we said we were rolling.
About 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now let's come back in. And we generally have things synchronized. The last part I want to look at is will be our next transition, which is here, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is how we'll get this in sync with the screen. Now we'll pop this back open and we'll enable. And you see this is way out. So
Uh-huh.
So you'll see right where I click it. Right there. So that's our marker. Right? And when we come in, and we come back and we disable, we know that this and this are that far out. There we go. Oh, come on. Let's try our position. Okay, let's blade our way into this.
Do what?
Oh, it's not letting me move it to the left. Now it will. There we go. So now that is going to coincide with that. That's pretty cool, right?
Right, yeah.
And so now we have everything synchronized. And the way we fix this, because now what I did was I took my background out, but I can just drag that back. Boom, done. So now we have everything done. Let's just have a quick listen. It's going to sound awful for just a second.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. We got a show for you. I'm Donald W. Moore. I started Get Off My Lawn Records.
I don't hear any delay. That means I got it really, really clean. So we're going to just take the volume out of these because we don't need their audio.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. We got a show for you.
Much cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
Much, much cleaner.
Pay people to do things for me.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like, whenever I wanted to make records, I couldn't afford studio time, but I could afford a piece of software or a microphone or one thing at a time.
Right.
And
And
20 years later,
here you are, you've got
a room
full
and a
of
house.
things that make noise.
Perfect. Sounds good to me. So now what we do, this is the fun part. We just go scale, 50%. Boom. Now Jared's half the size. Scale, 50%. Now Don and Chris are half the size. We take our X, move Don and Chris to the left. Select Jared. Move Jared to the right. And we have an episode.
And that's it.
That's it.
Oh, yeah.
And record noise and change noise.
And downstairs is...
And it's all in sync. That's wild, isn't it?
Close enough, right?
That's how we do this. So now we have a couple more small steps.
Okay.
You'll see when we did our section 2, that's going to look terrible if I leave it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to determine where section 2 is first.
Boop, 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 boop.
So,
You are on fire tonight.
That watch came up.
Oh,
Checking
yeah.
the time.
All right, let's move on. Section 2.
Thank you.
boom. That's our first edit point. Done.
So this is Carissa Explains It All.
So once we chop up all our sections, then, and I'm following along down here now to see where things change. So I know that this is going to change somewhere around here. So we'll change.
Like on the corner. It didn't actually display a number. Which is even weirder.
No, I thought they caught it.
Oh, that's right. They caught it.
And then just screw all sorts of things up.
Oh, yeah.
Because what side is 6 and what?
See, I don't need to watch this. I just need
That
to.
was 10.
10 yet?
That was 10.
That was 10.
Okay.
All right. So
So we'll make the edit right here. Boom. That's our section 3. Now let's go find our section 4. You see how it changes from the from why Don's not allowed to sell his DX7,
Yep.
and all of a sudden it's announcements, goals, and a giveaway. So I just come in and I zoom in and I find my edit point.
all right, what's next?
Boom. There's our edit. Now when I hold shift and click, when I do the blade tool, I just cut all of them together. Final Cut's a little funny. I'm not doing a Final Cut tutorial. I'm doing a tutorial on how I do the whole podcast. So I'm not going into the finer points.
Yeah, you would probably completely lose me if you went down the rabbit hole.
Right. So here's our announcement goals.
Marketer. So punch that in and have a listen. If you try to punch it in and it shows that it's already been taken, leave a comment. Let me know. I'll get in touch privately, give you a different code, and then we'll do a different download. I'm waiting for the audience to tell me that somebody's downloaded.
Well, and
To our. So yeah, let's move on to our.
Blam. Now we're on our shoutouts. After comes the shoutouts is how I became a producer. So I'm just finding generally where I changed that.
When you go to the Get Off My Lawn Records page, under the following option,
show me this content.
show first, and it'll just show it. Whenever
That drives me
it
nuts
comes out.
about Facebook.
And then the most important thing is if you do see it, hit like, leave a comment, and it
They're
pushes
always-
out to more people.
Right.
They push
Algorithms
ads.
are weird.
Yeah. Then
Yep.
the people that. Well, and they push. Don't you know that they push. In the current
All right,
news
what's next?
environment, don't you know that they push certain content to certain people?
Yep. I
And
do
it
know
just
that.
fuels one side versus the other.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's
Sorry, we don't need to get into all that, but right?
I hate it. I hate it so much. So how I became a producer, and then everybody gets a trophy. Look at you. You are just relaxed in that chair.
I slouch. I wanted to be relaxed.
Next.
Bam. So I also, if you notice, I kind of say, what's next? At the end of each clip. Makes finding my edit points easy. So now everybody gets a trophy. So now it's going to be, and on that note,
But still has split.
I think that was it.
So on that note,
Right there.
And that was your out?
That's my out. So then now I can just take all of this out of here. And then what I do is I go into last week's episode and I take the intro. Yes, I'm editing between clips. That's fine. Leave it where it needs to be. Now I like the ending to just be real tight. I like it to come up very abruptly. Where I like the opening to kind of meander. So I tighten that one up at the end, and then and then I drop another one at the very beginning.
And what is that? The just the get off my lawn. Rah, rah, rah.
Yeah, this is our title card, right?
Okay. Title card.
Get off my lawn!
I love that.
You know, I recorded that with my phone. In here, room full of gear. I was like, just get
off my lawn.
Yeah, I just threw my iPhone on a book on the floor, and I used my little pig nose. You can actually hear me strike the strings because it was not very loud. I just wanted to just do it very quick and easy and
Right.
and
It
knock
sounds
out.
edgy.
It sounds right. It's
Yeah.
It's definitely me. So so here we are, right? So now everything's edited, everything's cool. I have a full episode edited, ready to go up to YouTube.
Save that file and
Everything automatically saves in Final Cut. But what I do need to do is I do need to do this. File, share, Apple devices, 10p. Now, if anybody knows a better setting to speed up the YouTube processing, I'd love to know it. I'd love to know whatever format they want so they don't have to process, or so they can process like in a matter of minutes. But right now I'm going to create a 10 gigabyte file. 10 gigs.
is the whole podcast.
The whole podcast is 10 gigabytes. Drop it right in the folder and save. And the best part about Final Cut is, while it's doing that, I can then go work on other things.
Like Freeform Fridays.
Well, no, what I need to do now is queue up our individual clips.
Oh, individual clips in this file. I see.
Right.
Yeah.
So as you see, I'm just making a series of copies. Now I know I need 6 episodes. So I'll need to get this number up to 5. Okay? And then I just come in and I rename them. The section 2 is Carissa Explains It All.
And then you'll shorten it just to that.
Television, right?
Mm-hmm.
The third section was... What was our third section? Why Don is not allowed to sell his DX7.
DX7.
Okay, the third section is, or the fourth, section 4 is always our announcements. Section 5 is always our shoutouts.
Mm-hmm.
And section 6 is how I became a record producer. Right? So now I have 5 additional projects that all look like this. But this is how it gets really easy. I already know that this is section 1. Oh, crud. You know what I forgot to do?
Uh-oh.
We need to kill that share. The file's no good. Got ahead of myself, guys. This is what I do. Let's go back into this one. We gotta fix this.
Oh, I thought you did that.
I didn't. But this will be a very easy fix. We're gonna make this 25. We'll make this 25. And we'll just move them to where they need to go. And I think that'll be correct for all of them. You know what? I'm okay with it being cut off.
Close enough.
Yeah, that
It doesn't cut off any of the... Well,
okay.
sorry, guys. How I Met Your Mother. Robin and Tim.
All right, let's do this. Let's come down to 20%.
Can you shrink the background one?
No, I don't want to shrink the back. I want to shrink the front. We'll come down to 20. Go out to the edges. This admittedly is the part, it's the newest edition of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really hard to figure out exactly what I want to do with it. So right now we're doing like these keynote presentations because they're easy. Like as you see, I just turned my keynotes very quickly and easily into a full into a screen share.
Right. Well, and it's
That
like
looks right.
like you talk
Okay.
about. It's your slate, right? It's one thing that you use to cue all of this together quickly.
Right. So we're going to do 20 and 20. So I fixed that on the full. We can restart the share. But then I got to go fix it on the Carissa Explains It All clip. So we just want to be aware of what we did.
Right. I see
Save.
what you're saying.
Okay. So Carissa, so let's start with our announcements. We don't need to do anything with that for the announcements because we're
Right. The only
not
one.
even keeping
The
it.
only one is the one with the pictures for the stories.
right. And so when I delete the chunks, I still keep my intro. That's how I get the clips edited very quickly. So now we're on our announcements. And really, if you haven't subscribed at this point, what are you doing? Hit subscribe. We do all sorts of fun stuff. So we got our announcements now. Let's do our Carissa Explains It All segment. What I do is I come in and I take out what I don't need right away. Just get it out of my way.
So, the front section, the back section, and I see what you're saying. So you
Right.
cut it all out because you're making clips, right?
Because I'm just making clips and I'm doing them quick and easy, and this is how I do a whole week of video because I have to. I make records. I can't sit around making video all day like some of these guys on YouTube. So we'll just seat this right where it needs to go. Lots and lots of care is being taken, as you can see. Bam. All right. And then I just do the full episode share right away.
Mm-hmm.
How I Became a Record Producer is going to be this one. Shoutouts is going to be the one right before How I Became a Record Producer. And then Why Don is not allowed to sell his DX7. I love that keyboard. I wonder if you can see that keyboard on screen. This one here.
Yeah, I mean, you can see this part of it.
Well, no, I mean on the episode we're recording right now. Did you forget we got a camera rolling?
No, I didn't forget.
Yeah.
I don't know. I actually think when we move that camera, we're going to be disappointed in the angle.
I don't think so.
You don't?
No. You have to have faith.
Faith, the faith, the faith.
You know, we did a we
Man,
did
I
a
can't-
George Michael on Do You Give a Bleep?
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. I actually saw that. It's funny. I'll hear songs sometimes, and I'm like, I should tell Don about that song so that he can cover it. Like,
Yep.
And some of them, it's almost like, in my mind, it would be like a challenge. Like, it's not like here's one, Don, that if you could morph this into a jazz tune, like, it'd be pretty wicked.
Yeah.
And then some of them, I'm like, no, that wouldn't jazz.
And as you see, I'm just setting up my exports. Bam. Now, if I really wanted to be a masochist, and I probably ought to, right? But what I could do in theory is upload directly to YouTube. And I probably should. Like right now I have the Jazz Destroyer set up to upload directly to YouTube, but I don't upload anything directly. Right now I create a file, and then that's an additional intermediary step, but
Right.
it allows me to keep an archive a lot easier than trying to go back and create an archive version.
Right. Like you might as well save it locally, and then push it up and complete those steps in that order.
Exactly. So that
Is a podcast.
that was a podcast in its entirety from we finished, and now it's time to edit to it's edited.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Thanks for having me, Don.
Yeah.
This
Leave
was
a
fun.
comment and love each other.